I'm 42, and this is the kind of thing you think only happens in some twisted soap opera until it happens to you. My daughter Ava is 21 now. She was always strong-willed, even as a kid. We were close when she was younger. She used to come to me for everything: school drama, boy trouble, even things she didn't tell her friends. But that started to change a few years ago, after I married Mark. Mark was my second husband. I met him when Ava was 16. He was charming, attentive, and most of all, he seemed to love Ava like his own. He came into our lives at a time when we both needed stability. Ava's dad left when she was 11 and barely looked back. Mark filled that hole in a way I never thought possible. He was the one who taught her to drive, helped her with college applications, and stayed up late when she was stressing over finals. I thought I hit the jackpot. But somewhere along the line, something shifted. I first noticed it when Ava turned 18. They'd always been close, but suddenly it felt off. She started dressing differently around him, tighter clothes, more makeup. She brushed it off as growing up, and maybe I was overthinking, but something about their interactions made my stomach twist. I told myself I was being paranoid. That maybe I was just jealous of how well they got along. Mark had always been a bit younger than me, he's only 33. That's a 9-year difference between him and Ava. But I brushed those thoughts aside. Because what kind of mother thinks like that? Then, right after Ava's 19th birthday, she moved out. It was abrupt. She said she was going to live with friends near campus, and I didn't fight it. She was an adult, and I trusted her. At least, I thought I did. I didn't see her much after that. She always had an excuse: busy with classes, work, friends. But I noticed she'd stop by when I wasn't home. Food would be missing. Once, I found one of her earrings in our bathroom. When I asked Mark about it, he shrugged and said she probably forgot it from a visit weeks ago. It didn't sit right with me. But nothing could have prepared me for what I found out last month. Ava didn't just move out to be closer to school. She got married. Secretly. And the man she married was Mark. Yes, my husband. Her stepfather. I found out through the mail. A thick white envelope arrived addressed to Mark. I don't usually open his things, but something about it seemed official, like a government notice or a financial document. I'd been worried for weeks, feeling this unease I couldn't shake. So I opened it. It was a marriage certificate. My hands started shaking the moment I read the names: Ava Thompson and Mark Ellis. Married almost 15 months ago. The date on the certificate? Just 3 weeks after Ava's 19th birthday. The location? A courthouse in a neighboring county. I dropped the paper like it had burned me. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I just stared at the floor, my heart pounding so loudly I thought I might pass out. I kept telling myself I was reading it wrong. That it had to be a mistake. A cruel joke. Some twisted scam. But it wasn't. I confronted Mark that night. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just handed him the envelope and watched his face drain of color. He didn't deny it. He didn't even try. He just sat down and said, "You weren't supposed to find out like this. Like there's a right way to find out your daughter married your husband." I wanted to scream. But I was frozen. Mark kept talking, something about how it just happened, how he and Ava fell in love and didn't mean for it to go that far. He claimed they waited until she was legal. As if that made it better. I asked him the only thing I could manage to get out: how long? His answer? Since before she moved out. That was over a year ago. I kicked him out that night, threw his clothes onto the porch and locked the door. I thought Ava would come to her senses and call me. Apologize. Say it was a mistake, that he manipulated her. But she didn't. In fact, she hasn't spoken to me since. Ava blocked my number the next day. I tried texting, calling, even reaching out through email. I left voicemails begging her to talk to me. Nothing worked. Her silence hit harder than anything Mark said. I thought maybe she was in denial, or scared, or ashamed, but she wasn't. 2 weeks later, I saw her Instagram post. It was a photo of the two of them, Mark and Ava, on a beach somewhere, holding hands and smiling like everything was perfect. The caption said, "Married my best friend. No regrets. No regrets." That was the moment the dam finally broke. I sat on the bathroom floor for what felt like hours, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. My daughter. My husband. My family, gone. But the worst part wasn't just that they'd betrayed me. It was that they'd rewritten the story. Mark had started telling people we'd separated before Ava moved out. He claimed our marriage had been falling apart for years and that he and Ava didn't become involved until after she left. That was a lie. We were still sleeping in the same bed when she packed her bags. We still had dinner together as a family. I still kissed him goodnight. Now, they were painting me as the unstable one. The bitter ex. The one who couldn't let go. My own sister told me she saw one of Ava's TikToks. It was a soft focus video with sappy music playing in the background. Ava was talking about finding love in unexpected places and how sometimes you have to choose your happiness, even if others don't understand. She never once mentioned me. Not once. Just others. I had to delete every social media account I owned after that. I couldn't take the comments, the speculation, the whispers from people who only knew half the story, or worse, believed Mark's version. And the thing is, part of me still wanted to believe Ava was brainwashed, manipulated. Maybe she still was. But another part of me started to wonder if she really chose this. 3 weeks after finding out, I got a knock at the door. It was Ava's biological father, my ex-husband, Nate. We hadn't spoken in years. Our divorce had been messy, and he'd moved across the country not long after, barely staying in touch with Ava. So when I saw him on my doorstep, I froze. He'd flown in after getting a weird message from Ava, he said. Something about her starting a new chapter and wanting to make peace with her past. He hadn't even known what she meant until he checked her social media and saw the same beach photo I did. He looked stunned. We sat at the kitchen table in silence before I showed him the marriage certificate. He didn't believe it at first. He kept muttering this can't be real and shaking his head. Eventually, he just sat back and stared at the ceiling for a long time. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. She always had a thing for older men. I thought it was just a phase. He told me about a time, years ago, when he caught Ava texting one of his coworkers, a man in his 30s. He brushed it off at the time, thinking it was innocent. Just teenage curiosity. But now? Now he wasn't so sure. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed replaying everything in my head. The way Ava used to dress when Mark was around. The way they'd joke like they had secrets. How she always sat next to him at dinner, even when there were empty chairs. How she called him my favorite person in her birthday post at 18. I ignored every sign. I wanted to believe that love had boundaries. That family meant something. That no one would ever cross that line. But maybe I was the only one who believed that. The next day, Nate asked if I wanted him to talk to Ava. To maybe bring her back to reality. I told him no. Because I wasn't sure I even wanted her back anymore. But the universe wasn't done twisting the knife. A few days after Nate left, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Just my name in Ava's handwriting. I almost threw it away. But I opened it. It started with, Mom, I know you probably hate me right now. She said she wasn't trying to hurt me. That she didn't plan for it to happen, but she wasn't going to apologize for falling in love. According to her, Mark understood her in ways no one else ever had. She called their relationship pure and untouched by the judgment of others. She said they didn't cross any lines until after she moved out, and that it had nothing to do with me. The rest of the letter read like a manifesto. She claimed that society had rigid ideas about love and that she refused to let fear control her life. She ended it by saying she hoped one day I could forgive them and that she still loved me, even if I didn't understand her choices. I sat there staring at the paper, heart racing. Her words didn't feel like Ava. They felt rehearsed. Like something Mark might have said. I wondered how much of that letter was hers, and how much was his. A part of me wanted to scream back in ink. Write a letter so raw and furious it would burn in her hands. But I didn't. Instead, I wrote one sentence on the back of her letter. You're not the daughter I raised. And I mailed it back. No stamp. No envelope. Just folded it in half, scrawled her address on the front, and dropped it in the box. If she wants to live in delusion, fine. But she needed to know, I wasn't pretending anymore either. 2 weeks later, she posted a pregnancy announcement. That was the moment I stopped breathing. It was one of those heavily filtered maternity shoot pictures, Ava in a white lace dress, standing barefoot in a field, holding her belly while Mark kissed her cheek. The caption read, Baby Ellis coming this spring. Love creates life. My hands went numb. I stared at the screen so long my eyes started to burn. I wasn't prepared for this. Not even close. I hadn't spoken her name out loud in over a month. I had started therapy. I had changed my locks. I thought I was making progress. But this cracked something open in me I didn't know was still alive. People started texting me. Friends I hadn't heard from in years. Some didn't know the story and thought I'd be thrilled to become a grandmother. Others had seen the wedding rumors and figured the baby announcement confirmed the worst. Everyone wanted my reaction. But I had none to give. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat on the edge of the bed, numb. Because what do you do when your daughter gets pregnant by your husband? It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was legacy. That baby would carry Mark's last name. It would grow up never knowing what really happened. Maybe Ava would tell it I died. Maybe I'd just become the bitter ex-wife in some twisted family story. And I realized something terrifying. They had erased me completely, and now they were replacing me. I didn't respond publicly. I didn't comment. I didn't share. I didn't even like the post. But the next morning, I got a message request on Facebook from Ava. Just 2 lines. I thought you'd want to be involved. You're still my mom. Still my mom. Like those words meant something anymore. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to answer with venom. To tell her exactly what kind of mother she'd turned me into, a broken shell. A cautionary tale. But something stopped me. Instead, I clicked on her profile. I scrolled past the photos, past the glowing comments, past the strangers calling them brave and beautiful and meant to be. And then I saw it. Mark had commented under the pregnancy post. He'd written, "Our little miracle. I can't wait to meet the one we created together." Created together. And right below that, someone I recognized, one of his old co-workers, had replied with a cryptic, "Guess some people get everything handed to them." I clicked the co-worker's profile. Started digging. That's when I found out something that almost made me laugh. Mark had gotten fired 6 months ago. No one knew why. Just that he'd left suddenly and quietly. But then I found a forum thread on an industry board, anonymous users talking about an employee getting too close to his stepdaughter. The thread was old. It had to be him. That's why he'd been home more. That's why Ava moved in. He didn't just betray me emotionally. He'd been jobless, leeching off me, using our house, our money, while building a new life with my child. And suddenly, I knew what I had to do. I contacted a lawyer the next day. I told her everything. The marriage, the timeline, the lies. I didn't care how humiliating it sounded. I needed to know my options. She listened, took notes, and then said something that made my blood run cold. You may have grounds for an annulment. Possibly even fraud. Fraud. Because Mark never disclosed his relationship with Ava while we were still married. If he was romantically involved with her before she turned 18, or even emotionally grooming her, there might be legal implications. The timeline was murky, but the overlap was undeniable. She asked if I had any proof. I told her about the photos, the letter, the marriage certificate, the post. But she wanted more. So I went digging. I spent 3 sleepless nights searching through old emails, photos, phone records, anything to build a case. I found receipts from hotels he claimed were work trips, dated just weeks before Ava moved out. I found texts where he said he was staying late, but his car tracker, yes, I checked the insurance app, showed him parked near her campus for hours. It was like unearthing my own grave. By the end of the week, I had enough to file for an annulment and initiate a civil claim for financial fraud. I didn't care about revenge. I just wanted the legal system to say it out loud. What happened to me wasn't okay. That I wasn't crazy. That I didn't imagine it. That someone, somewhere, would call it what it really was: abuse. Exploitation. Manipulation. Maybe not in the criminal court, but somewhere with authority. Somewhere that mattered. And as I mailed the packet to my attorney, I didn't feel strong. I felt destroyed. But I also felt honest. For the first time in months. News of the legal filing got out faster than I expected. I didn't post anything publicly, but someone must have talked. Maybe a mutual friend. Maybe Mark himself. Because 3 days after my lawyer confirmed the papers were filed, I got another message from Ava. This one wasn't calm. It was a full-blown rant. She accused me of trying to ruin her family. Said I was bitter, jealous, hateful, that I couldn't stand seeing her happy. She wrote that Mark loved her in a way no man ever loved me and that I needed to stop clinging to the past. She ended the message with, "You lost. We won. Just let it go. Let it go." As if I hadn't already lost everything. She didn't even try to deny what had happened. There was no apology. No acknowledgement of how deeply they'd hurt me. Just this smug sense of superiority, like they were somehow the victims in all of this. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. 2 days later, my lawyer called. Mark had tried to file a restraining order against me. Claimed I was harassing Ava and attempting to sabotage their lives through legal abuse. It was laughable. But it was also a move I recognized. A tactic. If they could make me look unstable, bitter, vengeful, they could discredit everything. The timing of the baby, the sudden wedding, the suspicious job loss. All of it could be swept under the rug if I could be painted as the crazy ex. But they forgot something. They underestimated just how far someone will go once they've got nothing left to lose. The court dismissed the restraining order. They saw it for what it was, a flimsy attempt to silence me. But what came next surprised even me. My lawyer advised me to go public. Not on social media. Not in anger. But with documentation. A statement. A quiet, controlled release of the truth, shared with only those who mattered, our friends, our families, the people Mark and Ava had been spinning lies to for over a year. It wasn't revenge. It was reclaiming my name. I wrote a letter. Short, direct, honest. I explained that my husband had married my daughter. That they'd hidden it for months, manipulated the timeline, and cut me out of their lives while taking over the life I built. I didn't ask for sympathy. I didn't demand outrage. I just told the truth. Then I sent it. To everyone. There was silence at first. A few awkward responses. Then, the wave hit. People started unfollowing Ava. Friends of Mark sent me private messages apologizing for believing his version. One of his old co-workers, anonymous but kind, told me the whispers had been true all along, but no one had wanted to get involved. Even my sister, who had defended Ava at first, called me in tears. She had no idea how deep it went. She felt ashamed. I didn't comfort her. I didn't scream either. I just listened, numb. Because at that point, I'd already accepted the truth. Ava was gone. Not physically. She was still alive, still out there, probably still glowing in her Instagram filters and baby updates. But the girl I raised? The one I sang to sleep? The one who held my hand when she was scared? She was gone. And so was he. So I did what I should have done a long time ago. I sold the house. Took what little was left of my savings and moved to a city where no one knew me as her mother or his wife. I started over. Quietly. Slowly. Painfully. Some nights I still wake up in a cold sweat, wondering if I imagined it all. But then I see the court papers. The headlines. The dates on the photos. And I remember, I didn't lose my mind. I lost my family. But in a way, I also found something else. Clarity. Strength. And finally, peace.